Good afternoon. Today we're going to be switching gears a little bit. I've been doing a study of the life, parables, and teachings of Jesus in podcast form because that's one of my favorite topics. Because if we're going to learn to live like Christ, we have to understand how Christ lived and what his expectations and standards were, and what they still are, and the fact that his standards still work today. But something that I read a pamphlet that was sent out a couple years ago by TPUSA, the organization that Charlie Kirk ran, and about the Great Reset, Agenda 2030, the One World Government, and so I'm going to be doing the next several studies on what I've read and learned, some of the things I already knew, some of the things I didn't. So we're gonna go into that. So stay with me. It's gonna be fun. But the first thing that has happened on a wide scale is the attack on the family, and this is what the majority of this podcast is gonna be on. But the goal of the World Economic Forum and other organizations is they're committed to a true communist agenda. They reject the notion of God. Now, by definition, rejecting the notion of God means that they believe that they are gods themselves, a little g. But we have seen this pushed throughout our lives since June 25th, 1962, when God was removed from school. And what you find out in life is the more that God is taken out of our lives, the more chaotic it becomes. The refusal to acknowledge sinful nature of man is prevalent in this life. This has been evidenced by churches teaching people they are perfect the way that they are. If this were true, there would be no need for Christ, which has led to multitudes of self-righteous people. Now, 1 Peter 5:8 and 9. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walks about seeking who he may devour, whom resist steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same afflictions are accomplished in your brethren that are in the world. Now, one of the key things that have happened is the removal of the quality of state or being free that was given by God, which is the freedom from slavery. Spiritually, we know that who the Son, Jesus, sets free from the bondage of sin, which is spiritual slavery, is flee. We're not those little bugs that fly around that dogs get. No, it is free indeed. The World Economic Forum has pushed for physical slavery through raising taxes, rising costs, while income doesn't rise as quickly as the costs do, and we have to work more just to stay afloat. Now, there are a lot more different ways that they have done this too, which we'll get more into. But continuing on, but the goal is for individual parts becoming indistinguishable from the whole. No area has made this more clear than mainstream media. If you watch mainstream media, you will get caught up in Republicans are the problem, Democrats aren't. Conservative media conservative media says the opposite. There's intense hatred for Christians, and really the whole idea, which I had addressed in one of my earliest podcasts, "Don't Trust Mediums," is the media is a very fear based organization. And so, and that's what they try to do, is they try to create fear to make everybody hate everybody, because it's easy to tear down an organization. It's easy to tear down any establishment if they don't, if they don't like and they don't advocate for one another. That's probably the easiest way to tear it down. But piece by piece, they have tore down the family unit. The belief that there is racism in the world, which is much greater. The reality is they make it seem like it's much greater than it actually is. Now the issue with this too is it's labels and stereotypes that are the problem. Anybody who is has followed God and followed the teachings of Christianity knows and understands that in God's sight there is no black or white. It is not color that He sees, like the words of, "If we could see through His eyes by for Him, then we would dare to love the way God loves." If we could see through His eyes, then we'd understand the way God understands. For His eyes see to the surface, right down to our needs, far beyond where we. I forget the rest of the lyrics of the song, but you can look it up. Through His eyes by for Him, but it's a really cool song. It's just too perfect to pass up. But when we see things through Christ's eyes, we see people for who they are and not the color of their skin, and that's the most important thing. Um, the whole ideal is for them is to create such massive levels of division that cause tells that freedom causes systems to crumble in order to establish society by a few. Now, as it pertains to the family, just a sec, I'm gonna go ahead and because I'm stumbling over my words a little bit more than usual. I'm not the fast talking street cat from the cartoons. I've never been very good at that. But as it pertains to families, now, one of the biggest struggles that we overlook in society, but it has plagued us for years, is we get so caught up on the uh, the chase than we do the journey. Now, what I mean by that is when you're dating, there's the courting, there's the planning on dates, there's the buying flowers, the if you get engaged, the planning of the wedding, it's like, I mean, every there more intricate details are placed into the courtship process and the dating to engagement to marriage, that like that by the time they cross the line to after their wedding day, we have no idea how to keep it going strong. There's a line from the song "Calling All Angels." Actually, I'll go ahead and do the whole chorus. I won't flub this up, I hope. But no, when people have to play inside so they don't disappear, while private eyes solve marriage lies because we don't talk for years. When football teams are kissing queens and losing sight of having dreams, in a world where what we want is only what we want until it's ours. Now, that one, I get chills every time I think about it, because that's essentially what our world has been over like the last 20, 25 years is we we spend so much time again getting something that when we get it we're like this isn't even worth it anymore. We don't want it anymore. um and let's see here. Yeah, another thing, like another point on this is because and this is why I do not like hookup culture. Well, there's a lot of different reasons I do not like hookup culture, but that's essentially dating, like dating around, like seeing who seeing who you wanna marry. But the reality of it is, my old youth pastor years ago said something I agree 100% with. There is no benefits that you get that you get from dating that you cannot get from being just friends. And when you're hanging out as just friends, then it's like whatever. I mean, like if uh, if there's no if there's no chemistry, like you guys don't get along very well. Well, there's no pressure in going your separate ways and still holding a mutual respect for one another. Um, there when you're dating, when you're official boyfriend girlfriend, there's a lot of pressure to in a lot of ways. Men do have a tendency to care more about what women are going through than what that women do men, and men a lot of times don't realize that until they're out of the relationship. It's like habits are hard to break, but but yeah, there's like you but yeah, the whole idea of hookup culture is not good because it doesn't end well for either one. But it also, when it comes to oh yeah, and also, like I've said, along the lines of addictions, that you don't realize what you're missing until, and then when you do it, you can't get enough of it. That's another paraphrase version of what I've said. The exact words are, you can you can go without something. See, no, that's all right. You can't miss what you haven't had, but once you've had something, the more you have it, the more you want. And that I have used that in context in my past podcasts to sexual intercourse, but really it works for everything because even the simple gestures of holding hands and cuddling, the more you have it, the more you want it. Um, and that's just and like even kissing, and this is why, I mean, I remember having this conversation with my siblings when I was younger. They disagree with me, but I still hold to the position, just because of I've never kissed a girl except for three different times on the cheek. Two of the times I aimed for her lips, but she turned. But that's besides the point. I've had bad luck with women anyway. But yeah, the whole but like even with that, there's an addiction to it. And your body gets addicted to it, and then you do have a tendency to push the limits. But yeah, we'll go into that a little bit here in a few minutes. But yeah, then there's a subject of abortion. Oh yeah, oh boy, I opened up a can of worms. No, um, But no, it's like we have 1.5 million abortions per year since 1973. Now, the whole my body, my choice argument is true if used to promote abstinence. Once you make the decision to have sex, you're not free from the consequences or potential consequences. Now, abortion is murder. Like Jeremiah 1:5 says, before the Father even formed you or before you were formed in your mother's womb, I knew you. And so that was God's way of saying, you know what, I knew who you were before you were even put in your mom's womb. That's evidence of a like person being a person. Like at conception, a person is a person. So abortion is murder all the way through. Then we got let's see, you got another thing on that is I heard it said really, like, really for the first time, is there's no real consequences for men when a woman has has an abortion. And I hadn't really thought about that before, but I think um, large part it's that's correct. Because even when a person like if she murders a baby inside of her, yeah, there's still effects to her body because that is even harmful to her body. I don't have the stats to prove that, but it's only logical to to believe that it actually would be harmful to her body, even if she murders that baby. But a part that doesn't really get discussed is when it comes to abortion, half of the child's DNA is his DNA and half of it is hers. So why does he have no say in what is done with the child? And also too, I've even heard the argument of if she can have the decision to whether the baby is killed or stayed, why does he have no choice in child support? And I tend to believe that child support overall should be gotten rid of because yes, there are deadbeat dads out there, not as many as what are accused of being. There are those that are, but yeah, it's a much smaller percentage. But do you think that forcing a parent, like a child, to pay child support is going to, make it where they do okay, even if they get thrown in jail, when you're in jail, you're not getting that money anyway. So it's all it really does is punish the man. Yes, he should be involved in the kid's life. Yes, you have the fun. You should have the responsibility that comes with that. But if a person in their heart does not want to do that, they're not going to do it. It doesn't matter how much you try to force them to do it. And so I think in a way, so while yeah, it's wrong for because it is still more common that men leave than women, but and that is wrong, but it's just as wrong to try to force them to pay child support when if they don't want to, they're not going to. If they don't want to be in the child's life, they're not going to either. Um, then you've got the LGBT movement and the prostitutes, sex workers. Well, I don't really like the term workers. Call them what they are: prostitutes, harlots, whatever. But I've like it's but doing that is one of the many ways of playing God. I mean, the old phrase, "You can't help who you love." Yeah, unconditional love is not lust, and the whole like the whole "I can have sex with whoever I want" is not freedom. It's an addiction that further drags you into bondage. Abstinence is you can't miss what you haven't had. Once you have something, the more you have it, the more you want it. And it's a vicious cycle. Now, then porn and romance novels have created an image of a reality that we won't get. Thank God women aren't porn stars. Equally as dangerous reality is women's expectation of every man expected to be Prince Charming, rescuing you from something. That's not reality. Men cannot be expected to rescue from whatever decisions you have made, which creates problems in your life. You are responsible for your own actions. And now, and we see this too, because every single one of us, I am sure, has either read a romance novel or watched a lot. I mean, any of the 1990s, Disney romances like Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, The Lion King had some of it, Aladdin had some of it. There was Beauty and the Beast. It all has the same the same themes within it. Now there are good themes and there are bad themes in both, but that's the danger of it. Is every single one of us in our lifetime has been inundated with this alternate reality, which is not true. I mean, I'm not a Prince Charming. I'm not even charming. I don't want to be charming. Charming is witchcraft, and so yeah, you don't. So what you see is what you get with me, and that's just like, take it or leave it. That's the way it should be. But then we got social media. Social media has its props. It helps us to keep up with friends or family that you haven't seen in a while. Probably the biggest detriment of social media is it is a window to peer pressure you didn't have before. How to raise your kids and all kinds of positive and negative relationship advice. Propaganda, social media is a propaganda machine that tears families apart. Before social media, divorce was not as common. Since social media, the wide range of advice from people has led to higher divorce rates. And usually it is not just that. Men, I mean, yeah, usually men do not are not as susceptible to the relationship device from or advice from online, because I mean they could hear it, they may take it to heart, but at the end of the day, they're like, you know what, it's my decision. I know my family better than better than these goofballs online. So I'm going to do what I believe is best for for my family. Women tend to be a little bit more influenced by social media because they're emotion based. So things that someone says like, oh yeah, I'll give it a shot, and may or may not work, but all these subtleties, when like pretty soon social media is leading your family and not dad and mom, and that is extremely dangerous. And I know that's something that they want too, is mom and dad both having to work full time so social media can raise their kids. um But no, and then we got family court. Family court is a nightmare. it's formed it's framed as though 50-50 custody is a default. Talking to people that have gone through family court, men will tell you differently. Women can go through the process much cheaper than men can. I've like I've watched a lot of I've watched the present father, the unmarried father, and they've made it. The present father was was married, and his ex wife put him through the same stuff that the unmarried father did, not being married, and so and it's like 50,000, like they were like $100,000 to be a father, and court costs, which could have gone towards um, routine needs or everyday needs of the family instead of spending it in court, which court gets the money, not the family. So really, it was. So yeah, court, family court over that issue is not. I mean, is not the issue, because people that need it ain't getting it, and the people that don't need the money are the ones that are getting it to prove the right to be in the child's life, which is wrong. But but yeah, it's but the point I was making before I made the little rabbit trail is women can go through the process of family court much cheaper than men can, since moms are the default parent that courts side with, which is tender years doctrine is as Pearl Davis had said, and it's 100% true, is a sexist doctrine that does not favor men at all, which it's also been disproven. Well, yeah, you need your mom, you also need your dad, because you've gotta have a good balance of both to be as good of a human being as you can be. Let's see. Yeah, it costs 5 to 6 figures to fight courts that most men don't have. Fatherhood is a right and not a purchase. It's a right and responsibility, because once you have sex with a woman, you get pregnant. She gets pregnant, there is a responsibility attached to that, but it should not be a purchase. I believe the biggest way we can fight back is cut the incentive for women to leave marriages. There should be an out for abuse, but it has to be proven, not just said. Enough lives have been destroyed due to false allegations. Do what we can to make sure as few cases go to court as possible. This involves communication on all levels. Avoid court at all costs. It doesn't just affect the accused, it ruins the reputation of the accuser. If the case goes to court, no proof, no case. Nobody pays a dime unless there is concrete evidence that is presented. The power needs to be put back into the hands of the people to resolve own problems without the state involvement. A friend of mine made a comment the other day, which is something that I hadn't thought about, but it's a biblical concept of having at least two judges and a third if the two judges cannot come to an agreement. And this is what happened in Jesus's case in the when he was crucified, because Herod Herod and Pilate were passing them back and forth as far as oh, this is your jurisdiction, no, this is your jurisdiction. They go back and forth, but but it was in the case of two judges, if one wanted to convict him, the other one said no, he did nothing wrong, which Pilate did say that, then you have a third judge, preferably unbiased, because because there's always biases in family court. And even before the last 20, 30 years, when we started seeing it, there's there's always, like, bias, like, because if somebody, which is why I remember in 1997 when I registered to vote. I actually had to. I actually had my like. I actually, like, went to court to serve on a jury. Well, one of the questions that was asked is, "Do you know anybody like associated with this case? If you do, you are dismissed." And and so I didn't know anybody, but I just got dismissed within the first few days of reporting. But that was commonplace. That was mandatory. Which at what point did it not be? Was it not a requirement? I am not sure, but I do know, like in the unmarried father's case, one of the reporters knew the judge, was like an ex relative on his ex's side, that and so there were biases because of that. And if you have biases in court, you have people who are innocent, they get convicted, and then you have people who are not innocent that get acquitted. So it's always best to have good, have sound, sound evidence, as well as unbiased judges. But one thing about, in the case of Christ when he was crucified, you should never put the final say in the hands of the people, because there's always more people who believe the accuser than the accused. And so there's the so whenever you have that, the people are yelling, like, crucify him, when he did nothing wrong. And that's not a good thing. Now, it worked in our favor in that case, because had Christ not been crucified, buried, and rose again, we'd all be doomed to hell. But just because it works for that case doesn't mean it does for all. And then we got immigration. The solution to people coming into this country is the same as the boundaries you have in who comes into your home. They have to be invited. If a person comes into your home uninvited, they are trespassing. That's the same way with our country. We should not be required to take care of people who don't respect us enough to abide by our rules. If people respect the rules from the start, they likely will once they get here. If they don't, they won't. It's foolish to think that people who don't respect your boundaries before moving in are going to respect your boundaries when they do come in. Because of the biblical concept here, you have to be faithful in little before you can be trusted in much. So if you're not faithful when you can't, come in, like, if you're not, and now keep in mind on this, like, you can discuss issues, like, if you don't agree, like, you don't understand why things are a certain way, you do have, like, it is okay to discuss it, but at the end of the day, are you going to follow the rules? If not, you need to go. But, like, that's really the general rule of thumb. And the last concept on this is the is freedom versus democracy. Now there's a distinct difference here. Like the simplest way I can put this is this way. If a freedom can be voted away, it is not a freedom. Freedoms and rights are given by God and cannot be taken away. So if I wanted your bicycle and the majority of people around agree that I should have it, democracy says it's mine. Freedom says you purchase the bike, it's legally yours, regardless of how many people believe I should have it. If you give it to me, this is a different story. It's mine and you are powerless in how I use it. This is important because there are situations where the previous owner tries to dictate how the new owner handles it. Once ownership changes hands, the old owner has no say unless there's a contract. Now, if there's a contract in writing, then and it is signed, then yeah, then there is then you are bound by that contract. But if it's a verbal, if it's verbal, then I mean, in something changes hand. Like if you give me if you give me your bicycle. No, I'm not recommending that, but no, if you give me your bicycle and then it's then I own the bicycle, and however I choose to use it, whether it's riding or if I want to do jumps off of off of rooftops like my brother did. Oh man, I opened up another can of worms there, but no, several like when we were younger, when in one of the houses, we lived on 14th Street in Wichita, and my brother would um, have a ramp that goes up to the top of the garage, and he would ride his bicycle off off the garage, and it was amazing that he didn't get hurt more than what he did, but but yeah, it's like mom would say, "Get down from there," and he would jump down into a pile of leaves. Not that way. You weren't specific, but no. If I wanted to jump, if I wanted to ride my bicycle, ride the bicycle that you gave me off a garage, then that's on me. It's like if I mess it up, then that means I'm responsible for buying a new one, not expecting you to buy a new one because you gave it to me. So there's like different distinctions there, but that is it from here. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know what you think I could have done better. What and comment, like, subscribe if you want. For those because I do post this on my Instagram. For those who want to see um, past videos, as I've only posted on Instagram since mid September. Um, if you want to see my podcast before that point, you can just go to it's Truth Sniper on Instagram, or Casey Reeser 6230. Or you can just type in Casey Reeser and it'll see my face like, oh no, there he is, that goofy guy again. God bless you guys. Love y'all. Have a good week.